everybody, it's the Fat Philosopher here with a review of the new book by Dave Mustaine, Rust in Peace, which details the voyage he took on making his masterpiece, Rust in Peace album, back in 1990 there. Now, as you know, I'm a big Dave Mustaine Megadeth fan, and he had a big impression when I was growing up. Now, my first Megadeth lesson was actually So Far So Good So What. You know, Anarchy in the UK there was my first Megadeth song I ever heard, and I like that album very much, even though it's not one of his better reviewed albums. And after that, of course, I had Peace Sells, was a huge album I played when I was 16, 17 there. Just at a time when I really related to, because the music was so angry and so hard and heavy, and I was really angry at the time too, because my parents got divorced, my dad kind of took off on me, and I had all this kind of anger emotion I just had to put out into something. And so it was all into metal. I got really into thrash metal, just because it seemed at the time, in the mid 80s there, it's the heaviest music I could get my hands on at the time, so and you see like Vic Rattlehead covers and look so bloody awesome, and the guitars are unworldly there, so that's what I was really into at the time there. Of the big four, at the time I really liked both Megadeth and Metallica. Anthrax I liked too, and Slayer I did buy the Rain in Blood album, but for me they just weren't quite as good as the other ones. Often when you see rankings of the best top four, often they put Megadeth at the bottom, but I never could understand that. I thought Mustaine sang fine, and I believe that the technical skill in Megadeth was just far above the other ones. Of course, at the time I really liked Metallica at the time too, but then when Black Album came around, it just wasn't my thing. But Rust in Peace was. So before reviewing this book, I actually listened to the Rust in Peace again. It's an album I listen a few times every year now. Even all that time later, 30 years later now. But I can still remember when it came out. I just began college. I think it was 18, and it seemed like it was a long time since I had a Megadeth album. I was in the music store. I was kind of poor at the time, so I didn't actually buy metal magazines or anything like that. I just so I didn't really know any of the news behind it and anything like that. It just was there in the music store, and of course I bought the CD, and I remember putting on the Holy War's Punishment Due. That was just such a metal, it was a great song, and you just knew something special was happening there in that album. And of course I listened to that a lot in my first year of college. And I saw him on tour when he came with Judas Priest to Edmonton, Alberta, and a Testament too at the same time. Actually at the time I wasn't a Judas Priest fan, so I watched Testament and Megadeth, and then I kind of left. It was a weekday and it was getting late, and just I wasn't there for, sorry Judas Priest, but I came for Megadeth, so that's what I was doing. As an adult, I've been keeping up with the fans. I like his latest all his albums. Dystopia, like Endgame was really good too, I thought. And being a guitar freak myself, I only have one signature guitar, and of course that's the Dave Mustaine signature, the V, which, just look at that. That just looks so awesome. Black flame maple. I'm actually on a diet challenge now, so I can't actually play this. It's kind of a prop today anyways, because of the book review, until I lose all the weight. But I'm allowed to play it every 5 kilograms I lose. I can play it for an hour, and then I gotta put it back. So I played it about 2 times here, but wish I could play it more. But anyways, let's get on to the book and what I felt about the book. So I've read, of course, being a fan of Megadeth, I've read a lot of their stuff before. There's the Mustaine autobiography, which is much longer than this book. And, of course, there's the VH1 special, and a lot of, articles and magazines. And Mustaine was featured as the #1 heavy metal guitarist of all time in a book about the top 100 guitarists of all time, metal guitarists of all time, back in 2010. So of course I also watched that a lot. And as for my impressions of the book, now a lot of those books, they really they get into one thing about this book that was a little bit, it kind of copied parts of the other book, mainly the focus on the beginning on his substance abuse issues, alcohol or drugs, heroin, stuff like that. And of course, that's a very important part of his life and stuff, but the VH1 special was like, half of it was about the drugs. And the Megadeth book, also a huge part about the drugs. And here again, it starts off with the first, I'd say, quarter to third of the book about the substance abuse. And, I've heard about that before. I just kind of wished it got more onto the actual album. Of course, it does get onto the album. They do go on to the music, and they go through each song and how the band came together and the personalities on it. And after they go on to talk about the tours, the after tours and all the stuff they did there. And that kind of concludes, and it goes on to things like leading up to Dave Mustaine getting married to Pam, apparently his wife's name is there. Now the style of the book is kind of like interviews. So you hear, I downloaded it on Audible. With Audible you also get the PDF that goes with it. And it's all, you hear the actual Dave Mustaine and Dave Ellefson talking, as well as some other band members at the time. And there's of course the PDF with the pictures on it there. Of course, Marty Freeman, they have an actor in for him. It's not his actual voice there. Maybe he didn't want to be part of the project. And of course, Nick Menza passed away about 4 years ago, so unfortunately. So of course he's not being interviewed for the book either. And impressions about it. Like I said, I wish it had a little less of the drug stuff at the beginning. I kind of want to know more about, being a guitar player myself. And Dave Mustaine being like my favorite one of my favorite guitarists, maybe him and Jimmy Page, kind of neck and neck. I really wanted to see how his approach to the guitar and how he learned the guitar and stuff like that. And his autobiography, Mustaine, goes into that a bit, but not that much as I really want to know. And so that's a little bit disappointed. And kind of went more of that. And a little bit you can kind of tell it's kind of a Mustaine-centered project because often, and you can kind of see some of the tensions that are in it because it's an interviews that mostly with Freeman, Ellefson, and Mustaine, and sometimes when Freeman makes a comment, Mustaine has to get the last word in. He makes a little thing, yeah, that's what he thought, but it's really like this or like that. He kind of wants the last comment in, what things he thinks that Marty is mistaken about. It's kind of interesting there. They bring up a few interesting points. First of all, like they talked about how Megadeth could have been bigger if it wasn't so focused on Mustaine. Mustaine and Ellefson have been the most constant members. Ellefson wasn't always in Megadeth either, but of the band, and they. And some people felt that maybe the Rust in Peace team should have stuck together a little bit better than it turned out. And that, Megadeth, of course, is in the thrash metal community, a really big band. They could have been even bigger if they had like a set lineup. A lot of it, I think that's not really Mustaine's fault. Like, back in the original lineup with, I think, Samuelson on the drums and Poland on guitar. The guys were, pawning off their equipment to score heroin, and they just weren't focused on the band. So I think there's no choice but to knock them off the lineup there. And it was a little bit, I guess Mustaine seems a little bit remorseful. They couldn't get like a set lineup and make it actual, really like a brothers there, where they kept together. And then again, Metallica's like, I guess they've had rotating bass players too, though. So so very few bands that kept totally together. Well, of course, Led Zeppelin's a big exception to that. When their drummer died, it was over, and that kind of added to their mystique. This is the 12 years of work of Led Zeppelin. There will be no more. But so that's something I thought was kind of interesting in the book when they talked about how big they could have been. I also like to talk about the touring and Dave's marriage, a lot because I remember seeing that tour. I think that was done pretty good too. So, and also it's very kind of interesting. There's a foreword by Slash, who's actually really good friends. Slash of Guns N' Roses, and in there he gave a he was actually considering joining the Megadeth at the time there, and he had a pretty good foreword there too that people that are fans of Slash would enjoy as well. So basically, that's my thoughts about the book. I guess I liked it. You know, it's short. If you're listening to it, it's about a little bit under 5-hour listen. And it does give some insights into the music of Rust in Peace and the thinking behind your songs. It's a little too bad that they had to spend so much time talking about drugs at the beginning, not because I'm against drugs, but because they've done it already other places. So if you've read other books on so if you read other books on Megadeth, you're going to hear this again. But you know, I think it's a must-read for fans. And I hope it sells well, and it gives people insight into the lives of the Megadeth members and Dave Mustaine. Anyways, take care and enjoy the music. Salut.